You can't help but love The World Ends With You, can you? It's just got the cutest whittle acronym ever, Twewy. Today though, we're going to be talking about the sequel, Neo Twewy. I just hope at some point we get a remaster and they call it Neo The World Ends With You Ultimate World Upgrade, because then we'll have Neo Twewy Uwu. Okay, seriously though, thanks to Square Enix, I recently had the privilege of playing the first 2 chapters of Neo The World Ends With You. I'm gonna be honest and say that my knowledge of the first game is limited. I didn't play the DS original, and while I did buy and play the Switch version, I didn't finish it. It just didn't really click with me, but I mostly put that down to the fact it was essentially an enhanced port of the mobile version. I've heard from a lot of people that The World Ends With You was so designed around the dual screens and stylus of the DS that the mobile and Switch versions just weren't as good in a lot of ways. That's something you're certainly not going to have to worry about with Neo. The sequel is absolutely designed with traditional controls and hardware in mind, but more importantly, it's just a completely different experience altogether, in terms of gameplay at least. The look, the style, that's still here in Neo, and so is the amazing music. The soundtrack is easily one of the things I loved the most during the preview session.
Naturally.
Other than that though, Neo feels like its own brand new thing, a lot more ambitious and a lot larger in scope. So with that in mind, I'm just not going to treat this preview like some sort of comparison with the first game. From here on out, we're going to be talking about Neo on its own merits as its own thing. It starts with you playing as the lead character Rindo in Shibuya. You are on your way to meet up with your friend, Fret, to grab a bite to eat. The first 20 or so minutes is really just setting the scene. You're in modern day Japan, people are playing a mobile game that's basically just Pokemon Go, all is good. But it's not long before you're thrust into the wild world of The World Ends With You. Blocked from communicating with anyone using your mobile and seemingly unable to leave Shibuya, you've been registered as players in something called the Reaper's game. A lot more intense than catching monsters with augmented reality, you find yourself essentially fighting for your own survival. Shibuya is fully realized in 3D, and although it's heavily stylized, it's also pretty damn accurate. On more than one occasion, I recognized the streets and locations, and not just the obvious ones like Shibuya Crossing. From here on, you'll be following the story, completing objectives, solving puzzles, and fighting off enemies that are manifestations of negative emotions from the real world come to life. They are simply referred to as noise in the world of Neo. I'm not 100% sure what to make of the combat at the moment. You're given a grade or rank for each battle based on a number of factors, like how quick you win, how much damage you take, etc. And by the end of the preview, I was regularly getting A ranks, but I don't feel like I actually understood it all that well, which is almost certainly because what I played in the first 2 chapters is really just the introduction to the system. It's definitely not bad, and I can see how it might grow and expand as you continue further into the story, but in the early stages at least, it feels like a lot of button spamming. It's an action system that seems to be based around cooldown management and combos. Each of your party members can be assigned a specific attack which is bound to a specific button on the controller. You can freely use these attacks one at a time or all at once or in combos by pressing multiple buttons at the same time. They all have a set amount of usage though before they're depleted and will go on cooldown, so you don't want to completely unload everything you have because then you'll have a period where you can't attack at all, which will only give the enemy more opportunities to lay into you. You'll be able to trigger certain combos and force enemies into vulnerable states. There are also enemy weaknesses you can exploit, and not all the attacks are the spam type. Some attacks are, rapidly tap square, but others might be charge type attacks where you'll need to hold down R1 to charge up a powerful kick that knocks the enemies back, or a channeling type spell where you hold down L2 to channel a fire beam at enemies for as long as you're holding it down. The attacks are determined by pins, which are also a major collectible in the game. Enemies will drop them, you'll find them, you get them as quest rewards, etc. Each unique pin is a unique attack that can be leveled up and sometimes even evolved into a new pin. There are over 300 different pins in the game, which is something that made me gasp a little when I opened up the collectibles screen. There is a lot to collect in Neo The World Ends With You. Here's a quick rundown. 333 pins, that's 333 different attacks, 107 books, which are like tutorials, 51 music tracks, 277 threads, which are like clothing and equipment pieces, 95 foods, I'm not sure what that is yet, but there's 95 of them, and the Noisepedia, which is like the Pokedex of noises, has space for 92 different enemies. There is also an in-game achievement system which awards you pieces of graffiti for reaching milestones or completing objectives, which you can then use to customize a wall like some sort of trophy display. For reference, after the first 2 chapters, which took around 2 hours to finish, the completion percentage listed on the Collectibles page was 4.77%. And that seems pretty bang on the money with what the director, Hiroyuki Ito, said a little while back. He estimated there to be around 40 hours of gameplay in Neo: The World Ends With You. I think that's just about all I have to share at the moment. I came away from the preview feeling pretty positive about the game. The story was good right from the start, it certainly knows how to intrigue you from the onset. The characters are all pretty fun, the writing is a little silly, but it made me laugh more than once, so that's obviously the tone they were going for. I feel like I need to see more combat from further in to properly assess it, but at this stage it's fine. It doesn't really worry me even if it didn't blow me away. I'm certainly looking forward to diving into the full game, which I'll hopefully be able to do ahead of launch, which is currently slated for July 27th on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch, with a PC release coming sometime later. So subscribe if you'd like to see a review or more coverage as we approach the official launch, and as always, like the video or dislike it, whatever you want to do. Let me know in the comments if you're looking forward to Neo Twewy, and other than that, I'll see you all soon. Please don't hate me for that Neo Twewy Uwu joke. I did lose it about 20 times trying to get that take. But am I the only one who thinks that The World Ends With You has a hilarious acronym? Twewy, Neo Twewy.